You're listening to the 4-Phase Cycle podcast with your hosts, Dr. Alex and Megan of ZESTY Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you've definitely come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and best friends, we use the 4 phases of the female cycle in combination with functional lab work and mindset practices to transform the lives of the women we work with.
We also have a whole lot of fun along the way. If you're new around here, it's best to start with season 1 before jumping around and plan to roll up your sleeves. Showing up for ourselves and enjoying our lives is what good health is all about. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making changes. Hey there, everybody. Megan here, and welcome back to the 4-Phase Cycle podcast. I have an interview today. Such an amazing conversation. We got to talk about all of my favorite things lately. So Deb Yager joined me, and we talked about quantum healing, how trauma can be stored in the body and disease. We talked about emotional intelligence and connection with the mind and the body. We talked about behavior that sabotages health and the power of NLP. What is that anyway? It's something she teaches. And the timeline, very cool thing, is the key for epigenetics. Yes, so many good things here. So let me tell you a little bit about Deb. I just recently did a training with her, which was amazing. So Deborah Yager is a powerhouse with an unusual journey that only strengthens her as a master coach and master trainer. NLP found Deb several years ago, neuro-linguistic programming, and it was a match made in heaven. Her past struggles with sexuality, addiction, and negative self-talk were hurdles in her life that NLP helped her overcome. On the other side of those hurdles was a brand new, self-empowered Deb, full of big ideas and the desire to create change. Because of her background, Deb discovers what clients really want by helping them dive into their past traumas and current perceptions. She focuses on rebuilding better lives by using powerful tools to conquer negative feelings that really hold people back. And over the last few years, her innovative approach to the mind and body has helped hundreds of people lead more fulfilling lives. She's a firm believer in the ability to manifest your own reality and everything that comes into your realm. So founding the International Board of NLP with her husband is something that she has always been in the works for Deb, and her mission to help women create confidence in life, relationships, business, sales, sex, and more has driven her to co-create this board to help people build the confidence and freedom that leads to a successful and happy life. So many amazing takeaways for me. I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. Let's get into the interview. But first, a word from our sponsors. TOP, the Organic Project, is a women-owned social impact brand that is bringing fun to femcare. TOP was founded by 2 fearless moms who ditched their corporate careers to build a brand with a purpose that was inspired by their 2 daughters. They are raising the standard for period care by bringing innovation to a space that has lacked transparency and sustainability, and what goes in and on our bodies matters more than ever. TOP tampons, pads, and liners are 100% certified organic cotton, plant-based, and sustainably sourced. They are plantastic. I love that. So TOP is offering our community 25% off your first purchase with the code ZESTYGINGER25. We'll put it in the show notes, all one word, all caps, and head on over to toporganicproject.com to shop the entire collection of organic period products and use that code ZESTYGINGER25 to get 25% off your first order. You can also find them at Amazon, Fresh Time, Wegmans, Fresh Market, and coming soon to Sprouts and Target. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the 4-Phase Cycle podcast. This is Megan here, and I have Deb Yager with me here today. Welcome, Deb.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody.
I'm excited to have you. So I just recently completed a week-long, very intense, very amazing training with Deb and her husband, Brandon. And I am more than excited about this conversation because Deb has such an amazing story, so open, so vulnerable, and And I would love to start, Deb, so it was an NLP training, and I would love to just share where were you when you said NLP found you, which I love, found you first. Where were you in life? What was going on when that happened? And then before you shifted into being a coach and a master trainer.
Yes, thank you. I love sharing this story because I think of the practitioner training that you went through as the pivotal moment in my life where I started to love myself for the very first time. Before that, I was in a career that was completely wrong for me in every single cellular level. I was one of those girls that labeled themselves as a loser magnet. I was in and out of really abusive relationships and didn't understand why. I would get into the same relationship over and over again. And I would even like move places around. And I was like, why am I attracting these men? And I also had a belief about myself that I was an addict and alcoholic. And I started using hardcore drugs around 14 years old. And I was on a path of destruction. And the career that I was telling you about, I was a dancer and I was an escort / sex worker. And the problem really wasn't that was my occupation. It was the problem is that I didn't believe that I was worthy enough or smart enough to do anything else. And so I was in a prison of my own making. And so I remember one night that was like the rising of the Phoenix. It was an awful night. I got wasted and waking up the next day and having my head spinning. And I remember crawling to the mirror and looking at myself for the first time in a long time and realizing I didn't even know who the fuck I was. And so when I did that, I made a decision. I didn't know what it looked like yet, but I made a decision to change. And as soon as I did that, something shifted inside of me. And I know that my soul was guiding me at this time because I was so scared and I didn't know how to do anything else. That's when 2 NLP trainers came into my life. And they enrolled me into my success and my possibility. And I took a training I had known nothing about, which is a training that you just finished. And that training rocked my world because before that, I was just riddled with trauma, and it allowed me to let go of so many years of abuse to myself and from others. It also let me to allow myself to love myself for the very first time. I healed the addiction in that training, and I walked away and stopped using in the training. And it was like a miracle. Most people, the stuff that I was taking, I don't know if I should share, but I mean, I guess it's valid. I was taking Oxycontins, Loratab, Xanax, Adderall, and I was also smoking meth, and I was also drinking sometimes a fifth a day. And so that was just my way of coping and numbing the pain that I had inside. And so I literally quit that cold turkey the third day after doing parts integration. Just my body wouldn't allow me to have it anymore. And that's when everything started to change and miracles started to change in front of my eyes. And then I met my husband a year later in the master class and our master practitioner. And it's been a ride ever since.
Deb, I have to ask, like, how did 2 NLP trainers find you in this place?
Right. Well, so there's an amazing woman that came in my life before I met these 2 NLP trainers. And she had actually taken all this magic. So NLP is a process of modeling. And so you can take it and literally plug it into any industry to create success because there's all these tools and techniques that you can use to create accelerated success, love and acceptance for yourself, communication with your unconscious mind to heal. You can use it in the context of sales. You can use it in the context of business and leadership. So there is no application that there is no place in the world that you cannot apply NLP to create success. So this woman had uniquely taken it. She was a trainer and she had implemented into a hot Pilates model. And I took her teacher training because I literally watched her go from substitute teaching to doing her own meetup to then very shortly after having her own studio and then having a teacher training. And I was like, wow, she's doing something special. I don't know what it is. She was magnetically drawing me in. And I found out that that was her magic sauce. And she's like, go talk to these people. I don't care what it is. I don't care what your excuse is. Go talk to those people. And so I did. I trusted her. And I'm so glad I did because I probably wouldn't be alive today.
I was going to ask, where do you think you would be if you hadn't found this?
Probably in jail or dead. I had been in and out of jail quite a few times. I mean, never stayed for long periods of time, but yeah, when you're living in that lifestyle, it's different. I mean, it's survival.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing your story. It's really empowering, and I think just we are always talking about being open and vulnerable, and how everyone's kind of hiding all these different parts of them, and really it might look different. It might have been a different industry, but a lot of us have that same similar backstory. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I mean that's one of my missions. I think on the why I'm on this planet is to help women and men let go of shame, because shame is so destructive at the unconscious level to the body. I believe that that is why we have this huge, huge demographic of humans that have autoimmune disease, because shame is the tool of self beating up and just feeling unworthy and not good enough and self punishing and being critical. And I had all of this shame around what I was doing. Again, I don't think what I was doing is right or wrong. There's a lot of people that do it from a higher conscious level and they do great and they're aligned with it. But for me, there was so much shame around what I was doing. And I felt like every time that I was in that business, I was sacrificing myself. And I thought at some level, I actually deserved it. And so I was creating a life that was set up purely for self punishment. And that over a period of time will, you'll get symptomology just like you talk about with all your people and all your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I went into the training, I just want to get this out of the way for people who are going to ask. I had a friend be like, "Oh no, NLP! Like somebody did something bad, and evil, right, with NLP?" And I was like, "Yeah, I was like, it's powerful. And imagine if a coach like me, who really cares about women changing their health, and I could actually help women use this as a tool." So can you just talk a little bit about it being a tool? Right, it's like a knife. It could be horrible in the wrong hands. It could create an amazing meal in another person's hands. So
Yeah, I would love to. It's what we hear in pretty much every training until people understand really what it is. It's kind of like a hammer or a knife. It can be used for manipulation and power and control. Part of NLP was modeled after hypnosis. And so there are language patterns that can put people in a trance just like that. And so the application of it is really potent and powerful if you're wielding it with intention. So it's all about the intention behind the wielding. And so if you're intending to help and serve somebody with integrity, you can absolutely change their life with these tools and techniques. Now, it also is being used with propaganda and in the media every single day. And so the cool thing about understanding how NLP, neurolinguistic programming, languaging works inside the individual, how it induces trance, how it can have behaviors respond based upon these patterns. It's very important for people to understand how language works. And so once you understand it, then you have freedom and you can choose whenever stuff is coming at you. You can actually say, delete unconscious mind. I reject what this information is coming in because this is not aligned with who I am and what I desire in my highest and best. And so I think everybody should learn NLP because it will keep them being able to critically think for themselves and decide and choose what you believe in and what you desire and what decisions you make. So this whole COVID thing has been an interesting phenomenon. And I'm telling you, NLP is being used every single day in the media because I see it and I'm a master trainer of it. And so ever since the phenomenon has happened, I'm not saying that I don't believe in it and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it is what it is from a linguistic point of view. The patterns that are being used in the media are hypnotic and they are very non sequiturs, and there's double binds, and there's also complex equivalence, which puts people in a box of polarity. So then they can't see beyond that, which doesn't allow them to critically think and make decisions right for them. And so I love NLP because it gives you the freedom of choice. The whole entire system is designed to create choice for the individual, then to choose what's right for them versus what's told to them.
yeah, I love that. I've been so aware of just what the messages are coming in, and just also the programming of what my children are hearing, of just even shows and Disney. And actually, Deb, was so funny. My daughter she really would like my husband to put her to bed every night. That's what she wants. She's 5. And so she really wants daddy, but we rotate every other night. And so she had this whole thing the other day. She kind of she's like, well, it was my turn. And she's like, well, you slept with me tomorrow and lasterday and the day after that. And today is today. And so today she's like, daddy will sleep with me. And it was like, I'm pretty sure she just put us in a trance because we were both like, okay, confused us.
She was pacing and leading you.
so good. So I'm just so aware of where it's everywhere. Even my 5-year-old.
Yeah, and that's a brilliant thing about it is that people are doing NLP without even knowing it. Like we talk about in the hypnosis part of the training, people are using trance every day, hypnotic language patterns, but they don't know what they're doing. The key here is to break it down and choose to use it for a process or for intention to help and serve, because these tools, you can literally help somebody let go of years and years of trauma. You can literally help somebody go back and reprogram their genealogical timeline, but it's the keys to their DNA. And you're actually doing epigenetics to where the body will show up different here in the now. It gives us freedom, it gives us freedom from all of the limiting belief systems that have been programmed through our environment and the constructs that live in this matrix that we live in. So yeah, it's it's fascinating. And every day there's the rabbit hole. I'm telling you, like anybody that says they know everything there is to know about a topic is delusional, because every day I learn something new about how deep the rabbit hole goes.
About that connection, the mind connection with the mind, the body, and the idea of emotional intelligence. And I've seen this happen over and over and over with like finally getting to an emotion and feeling it for the first time, or people who are holding on to anger and just being so linked to different diseases. So can you just talk a little bit about what you're seeing with that mind body connection?
Yeah, I love the topic of the mind body connection, because that's all what we talk about in the training with NLP. And we call it the prime directs of the unconscious mind, which is for me like the keys of how your body works. The unconscious mind to me is the intelligence of the body. So it runs your entire body, it heals your body, it has a perfect blueprint of health and healing. So it has the perfect version of what you're supposed to be at the most healthy. And so there's a blueprint you can tap in to heal the body. And you can do that through trance and transformational stuff through NLP. It also rules all of your behaviors, your habits, your emotions, your emotional reactions, your belief systems, your values. Your values are what's most important to you and that drive your behavior. And so all of this is being run by the 95%, which what we call the unconscious mind. And when you can tap into that through utilization of NLP and trance, you can connect to it and reprogram it at the seed level. The problem is that people are not taught how their mind and their body works. We also have the conscious mind, which is the creative side of you. It is a part of you that's the identity, like I'm a trainer, I'm a wife, you are a mother, right? These are things that we identify. That's our creative side that we actually say, I want to go and make $100,000, or I want to be totally healthy in this next year so I can go climb a mountain. So that would be the conscious part of us. But the unconscious mind is the one that gets us there. It also is the one that creates the body to then get us to where we want to go. So with NLP, we can literally integrate the mind and body to have communication flow easily through both minds. And the thing is that we're not taught why we have emotions, what emotions are. Most people think that negative emotions are actually a bad thing. And from our perspective, we're emotional beings. We are having negative emotions and positive emotions all the time. Now it's how long you hold on to those negative emotions, because over time and trapped negative emotions in the body are actually damaging, which then we see a body in dis-ease, which is how we get symptomology. Your unconscious mind doesn't communicate the same way the conscious mind does. It communicates through physical symptomology. A lot of times chronic pain is communication. And so being able to pay attention to our beautiful unconscious mind and how she or he likes to communicate is very, very important. And so the work that we do is that we help people let go of trapped negative emotions that are residing in the body and from their past that are holding them back from being totally healthy, as well as going and achieving their goals. It's just that most people don't understand. Like a lot of times people like, oh my gosh, all this stuff from the past is coming up. It's presenting right in my face. And like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to deal with it, because our constructs or programming is you're not supposed to have emotions. They're considered weak for men. For women, women are not supposed to ever have rage. We're supposed to be perfect and, put together, and we're not supposed to have feelings. And then if you're in the women in the workforce, then it's considered weak if you have negative emotions as well. So there's all these double binds that we have in our constructs that are not aligned with how we actually truly operate like a human being. And so we are pushing these emotions, that's what you hear, people stuffing emotions. That's what they're doing. They're taking emotions or trauma and they're stuffing it in the body. But if you keep doing that, you're going to get dis-ease. And so your body's naturally bringing it up to your awareness so you can get resolution on it. And that's a lot of the work that we're doing, is getting resolution on trapped negative emotions and or aka trauma or significant emotional events of a negative nature from the past, so the body can do what it does. Once it's free and it has all that energy back, people's health goes through the roof. I don't know if that was a dump.
Amazing, Deb. I have a follow-up question on that. So I know a lot of women, myself included, who maybe haven't allowed themselves to feel for a long time, right? Like kind of total stuffing the emotion. And then at some point, maybe a therapist or someone is like, oh, you really need to feel your feelings. And then sometimes end up kind of going in the other direction of continually feeling like being in sadness. And I've had this conversation with some clients and some friends of what is that line of feeling my feelings and then also not getting up every day and anchoring yourself into a state of sadness, right? Deciding I'm going to be sad every day. Like when does it then become part of your identity versus processing and feeling and allowing it to move through? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and a lot of times people, without the conscious awareness, prolonged sadness creates AKA depression. That's a syndrome or a condition that happens if it's happening for a long time and the person isn't processing it. I'm a firm believer, and a lot of NLP people don't necessarily agree with this, is I believe in feeling your emotions. A lot of people can take NLP and use it to its extreme to then reframe every emotion as it's coming up. I do like to allow myself to experience the emotion and then really fully feel it through my body. And then when I'm ready, then I like to process. I'm like, okay, so where's this coming from? Is this coming from a past memory that my unconscious mind's bringing it up? So then I get resolution on it. Or is this something, the presence that I'm experiencing right now? Is it the what's going on in the planets in the sky? What's going on in my environment? What's going on? Do I feel like my values and my needs are getting met in the relationship? What is going on in my environment that is causing me to feel this way? And then learning from the experience. Really, from my perspective, the best way to move through emotions is getting the learning from it and allowing yourself to feel. Because if we keep dissociating from the emotions, we actually aren't listening to the body, and the body will actually give us chronic pain. So it's a dance between not staying and sitting in it for long periods of time, but also allowing us ourselves to feel it. Where is this coming from? I'm going to pause real quick. Okay, unconscious mind, I'm feeling really like grief right now. Okay, I'm feeling it right now. I'm allowing myself to feel it and sit with it for a minute. And then, like, say, okay, so what are you communicating? Where's this coming from? And then once you figure that out, then go down the rabbit hole of like, what can I learn from it? What is the wisdom from this? And usually when I do that process, it flows through it easily. And then it's complete versus pushing it down or not allowing yourself to feel it or pushing it away and moving forward and disassociating. That's what I found that's helpful.
Okay, thank you. You had mentioned during the training that often during a training like that I was in, we'll start to feel really safe, right? And our unconscious mind is like, okay, this is a safe container. Let's dig a little bit deeper. We can kind of pull up maybe some things that were repressed or some things to work on. And I have found anytime I've done something like that, or I've gone to a week of neurofeedback, or all the things, all the different things I've done, I actually usually come home and have a week or so where it's like a flood of other things coming out, where in my conscious mind is like, oh no, right, like I'm doing air quotes, it didn't work, or something is wrong, right? Because it's like I'm feeling worse. And this also happens with the ladies we work with in health. They start the process and then sometimes it goes in a direction that doesn't feel like progress. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's kind of like Pandora's box sometimes. Because once you break the seal, your unconscious mind feels safe. So she, if we're talking to women specifically, some people identify their unconscious mind with a male, and that's okay too. So she is bringing that up because now she knows that you're in communication. So a lot of times people that aren't taught about how their mind works or haven't been through some sort of therapeutic safe container, they're very disconnected. And so once the unconscious mind feels that connection or rapport built out, she will bring everything up. And so she's actually doing it to protect you, to get resolution on it. So just ride the wave and allow yourself to really process the emotions. Like I like to journal. The best way to do it is journaling, and or like for an example with you, I would say go back and figure out where they're coming from with quantum time, and do the releasing and getting the wisdom of it. It's changing the perspective of all these negative emotions being a bad thing, being okay with feeling negative emotions. I actually enjoy feeling negative emotions. I'm not now projecting to create more bad things to create more negative emotions. And there's something that I actually enjoy. I'm like, this is the experience of the human experience. What am I teaching? Because I have locked negative emotions mean learnings. And because I changed my perception on what negative emotions are, I welcome them and I allow myself to feel them. And then I process them when they come up. So just having patience and kindness and grace with yourself, and know that your body is doing what she needs in order for you to be safe and to create all the things that you desire in your life. And so that is part of the process.
I love that reframe. I'd heard once, and the Jets agree, Deb. I live in a jet pathway. I had heard the phrase, if it's coming, it's going. So right as this stuff is coming out, you're like, oh, great. It's headed. It's
And
headed.
it feels unsettling at the time. And just know that this too will pass. And this too is going to, because I know that this means to me growth. It means awareness. It means consciousness. Because when my unconscious mind's bringing all this shit up, I know that I'm going to do an up level. I know that in my heart. And so I'm willing to ride that wave. It's kind of like a big wave in Hawaii that is like, scared shitless, and let's go for it.
I love it. So I would love to talk about behavior that sabotages a health journey, because that is something that comes up constantly for the ladies we work with. They're like, why do I do these things? And sabotage, a lot of that word can be not loved in our community as well, because we do believe like your body's always protecting you, right? So a little reframe there as well. But can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, we see. So one of the things that we talk about in our hypnosis training, as well as the practitioner training, is there's things called away from motivation. So what I mean by that is a lot of times we're conditioned on our environment to be motivated by pain. And so people have been conditioned like this for many, many years. And so this is inside the health container as well. So they usually don't ever find a health coach until their bodies were free from this falling apart, or maybe they won't go to get a weight loss coach, or they don't go for optimization, they would go to lose weight. So there's a pain point that's then getting them moving into motivation. And so what we see with behavior is that people get really, really motivated when they're in a painful situation, and they'll be all in and they're like, yes, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do all the exercises, I'm going to eat really right, and I feel good about it, and they're super motivated. This is why gym memberships and New Year's like go sky up, because everybody has the New Year's resolution. And then what happens is they're away from motivation, loses motivation, because once they start achieving their goals, they lose the actual motivation that actually got them moving in the first place. So once they start getting goals and they start feeling better and they start losing weight, like, I don't need to do that program anymore. Oh, I have my goals, I feel good. And then what happens is their unconscious mind then puts them back into the pain to get motivated again. So that's one reason. And we see this in money, we see it in relationships, we see it in health. It's pretty much cross contextual. The other one is that a lot of times people have sabotaging behavior. Maybe they had trauma from the past. And so the unconscious mind, let's say a woman was physically abused as a child or bullied. So then she unconsciously created a decision that she was going to put on weight to protect her, or to not be sexually attractive. Let's say that she was sexually abused. And so what happens is the woman may lose weight, but then gain it back, because the unconscious mind programming is trying to keep her safe. And the cool thing is that we can release that from the past and free her to have a different belief system in the unconscious mind. Once she releases that out of the unconscious prime directive, then her body will physically change. We saw that in our, I think it was the 3-day business and practitioner training. We had a woman come and she let go of a whole bunch of stuff in the past. pounds started flying off. She's lost 45 pounds since then. And she hasn't really changed anything. She was working out once a day. She was eating really, really healthy, but nothing would allow her to lose weight. And now it's amazing. It's a miracle because there was a belief that was holding on to the weight. We also have the I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy to have happiness. I'm not worthy, or the belief systems in our lineage, like all the women have big butts and big bones, or it's hard for us to lose weight. So all these things, or all the women have this condition or dis-ease. So that belief will actually sabotage their health and their health journey as well. So there's a couple of things. And then the last one is waiting for the shoe to drop. So, which is a pattern that can show up in many different ways, is that whenever somebody creates success, then they believe that unconsciously there's a saboteur that comes and then sabotages it. And, or it could be a part, which a lot of times happens, that's formed in childhood and in the modeling period, that keeps a person safe, but it also creates incongruency in the whole. And so the part may come act out and sabotage the success. And so those are the reasons why.
Oh, I experienced that. I was just realizing in my 20s, I remember saying out loud, I lived in Hawaii. It was beautiful, had a great job. Everything was just amazing. And I remember saying, it was like 26. I was like, I have had such a good life. And I'm like, something bad is definitely coming for me. And
Wait,
27 on was my health crash. It was the beginning of the 10 years of chaos. So I definitely planted that one.
Yeah. So that's another thing that's a construct in our reality that most people have been programmed with, is that, like the tall poppy syndrome, when you're doing really well, somebody will come and take it down. It could be internal as well as external. So then we may have saboteurs in our environment, like a husband, or, kids, or, boundary testers. And so, but the thing is that if you have that belief inside of you, you will project it into your reality. So then somebody will come and play that role for you because you believe it to be true. It's not their fault. It's what's going on inside.
Just, that projection.
Oh, just love those things.
So since the training, I have done lots and lots of parts integration. I have found to have lots of different parts of me who want one thing and another part wants another. So can you just talk a little bit about what parts are and how in NLP, like what we learned to kind of bring them together? It's been such a powerful technique for me. So
Yeah, it was a game changer for me. After parts integration, that's when I stopped desiring, drugs and alcohol for the very first time. So like there was a huge part of me that wanted to just go out and rage and like just not, have any kind of like kindness towards anyone. It was like my raging part, but it also loved to abuse alcohol and food and overeat and all the things. And then I had a part of me that wanted to be healthy and a good person. So these conflictions within the neurology will create up and down type of behaviors that kind of look like bipolar. A lot of times, from my perspective, again, I'm not a medical doctor, though I think a lot of people that get diagnosed with bipolar or manic have many parts that are acting out. And how they're formed is when we're children and or later on in life, if there's a significant emotional event of a negative nature, aka trauma, the unconscious mind splits and there's two separate different neurology that are running simultaneously in the body. One could have a completely different belief system and values that want certain things, and the other one could be completely different as well. So the way we show it up in health is, part of me just wants to eat all the junk food, and then part of me wants to be healthy. Or part of me wants to go out and have the relationship in my dreams, but part of me is scared. Or part of me feels good enough and confident, part of me feels really weak and unworthy. And so all these different conflictions inside are like, it's the metaphor that in Native American Indians, they talk about the white wolf and the black wolf, and it's these two polarities inside. The problem is that it creates incongruent behavior, ups and downs. It also doesn't allow the body to heal, because the conflict is like having a war inside of you. And so if you're taking all your energy that is, going into healing and being optimal in health, and you're putting it inside of you, and you're literally raging a war 24 hours a day with yourself, that's where all your energy is going. And so it ends up sabotaging.
Yes, all those parts.
Those parts. And the thing is, we have a tool to integrate them, and it's beautiful and it's magical and it works and it's fast.
It's so simple and so amazing. So I have found, and I've just been asking myself anywhere where things are still showing up health wise, I'm like, well, there's clearly a belief here because I know how strong my immune system is, and I know what I do for my health. So I had realized in my journey that part of me felt I needed to hold on to certain symptoms. For me, viruses are a big thing, and I believed that if I didn't have this thing, that maybe I would stop doing all the healthy things. Maybe I'd stop learning. Maybe I would just all of a sudden, right, just go off the deep end and just not do anything healthy. So I believed I needed this reminder to stay learning and on track, and
Hmm.
I don't, as it turns out.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that a lot. Like we call it an external, it's away from motivation. It's an external motivation outside of you that is controlling you when you really have the ability to control yourself. Right. And that will wreak havoc because then you'll continue to need something outside of yourself to then create success. Then it's a lot more work than just believing in yourself and doing what is right for you in the moment.
Yeah, somehow I don't know how I thought I would ever want to stop learning. It's it's never happened yet. So
Yeah, I mean, parts are very interesting and it like they're so conflicting and sometimes they're even conflicting within themselves. And so they have parts within the parts. So here's a perfect example of a part, and this is around health. So when I've done over probably 2,000 parts integrations. And during my early on healing journey, I was going to the gym and then I'm like, I feel like going, no, I don't. And so I turned around and then then I'm like, no, but you have to. And so I turned back around. I think I turned around 6 times.
part of me says yes, go that way, and
What a waste of time. I ended up going and I was super happy. So the part one, that was the healthy part.
I love it. Okay, genetics. You mentioned epigenetics earlier, and I have down that the timeline is key for epigenetics. I'd love to talk about the timeline because I'm obsessed with this timeline and how much power we have. And this is something we talk about all the time, Deb, just not even before my understanding of the timeline is just that a lot of women will come to us and they will have had genetic testing, or they will have, whatever is in their family. And they're really, really focused on that. And they're like, yes, I know these things work for other people, but I am whatever, right? Like I have MTHFR genetic mutation. I have whatever. So they're attached to this. And we remind them, we've seen over and over and over that people will have these mutations and still be methylating amazingly. They'll have open detox pathways. It doesn't actually mean the future. So this is something we've been speaking of, having a tool though to actually go and change that out right there is so amazing. So I'd love for you to talk about timeline and epigenetics.
Yeah, it's fascinating and it's so freaking powerful and it gives us freedom. So the timeline is nothing new. Like we've known about timelines since Aristotle time. Um, what quantum time uh, what quantum time techniques is that it gives us the ability to access our history. So this life that you've been in here, as well as the womb, because there's an environment that gets reprogrammed, and we know that the environment controls the DNA, and then also the genealogical timeline, which is your ancestral tree. So you can go back and reprogram it at the seed level. Plus, you can also do past lives if you believe in such things. And I've seen people create dis-ease as a soul contract, which is very interesting. Or maybe in this lifetime they decided they wanted to have some sort of crazy situation, and so maybe that's what they're here to overcome and then learn about. So that is a cool part of it. But then also at the quantum level, we can also go on the future. So by setting goals in the future timeline that you are healthy presupposes and taps into the probability wave that it changes the physical form here. So we work from it from both ends. And so when people come to you and say, oh, well, I have this genetic thing that, my great grandmother and everything, and it's right here, right here. Well, we think to ourselves, was she going on in her environment? What was happening to her that created that at the seed level? And so then we can go back and clear it out. And the cool thing is that it's not just clearing out for us, it's also clearing out 8 generations in the past, and it's also clearing it out 8 generations into the future. I've seen wild stuff where people, mothers have done quantum time and gone back on their lineage, like maybe two ancestors back, and their child has a symptomology. And just by doing that, their child shows up differently, and they don't do any work with their child. I've also seen women have limiting beliefs that are formed while in pregnancy, and then the child shows up with symptomology. So it can go at a double-bladed sword. But the cool thing is that we have the freedom to reprogram it. So our basis of this thinking is Dr. Bruce Lipton. I'm sure that everybody's fully aware of it. And so he talks about it as like 2% is actually genes and everything else is environment. So this gives us the freedom to then go back and change the mental environment that's going on in situations in the past. Here's another example. So we had a woman that she was Armenian, and her family had gone through genocide, and she had all kinds of symptomology, and she also had a lot of weight that she put on. As soon as we let go of the rage that she was carrying for generations, the weight fell off and symptomology disappeared. So it's like we have so many stories about this, to where people that they've been diagnosed, or they have the, well, we have the genes, and then they go back and get the wisdom, they reframe it, they reprogram it at the seed level, and then it shows up differently in the physical form. And the interesting thing is that, from my perspective, this body is just a projection of what you're telling it to do. So if you change the memory, your body will forget to have the dis-ease. Just like some people that go into parts have different symptomology when they're in one part, and then they pop into the other part and they have a completely different body. And so the thing is there was nothing that happened besides a shift in mind.
Yeah, wow. I'm going to a Dr. Joe Dispenza event later in April, and he had a bunch of people with Parkinson's, and when they were in one environment, they were symptom free, right? And then when they would go back home, the reminder of their environment was bringing the symptoms back. And
yeah.
That environmental piece of their body had actually turned on to, start making their neurotransmitters in a different way, just by thought alone, by meditation and thought alone. But once back into that old environment, they were reminded of like, oh no, I'm actually a sick person, because there's my family who always does that thing, and there's the medication that I take, and that was triggered. Yeah.
Yeah. Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza talk about this, and it's phenomenal work. I mean, Bruce Lipton, he left his career. He used to actually train medical doctors, and he's like, this is absolutely wrong, because he kept coming up with, he was doing experiments, and he's like, the environment changes the genes. It's not the actual genes. So it's just very interesting. And then this gives us freedom, and we can choose to believe something different, and it gives us power and control over our destiny, because we have the power inside of us to shift anything, from my perspective, because I've seen it over and over again. People have been diagnosed with illnesses that they were deemed to, we're all free from this, die in a couple of years or even 6 months. And simply by coming and changing the mental, emotional, and spiritual, as well as the physical body, of course, doing all the testing that you're doing. So you're actually doing the physical body, and then changing the environment is very important to make sure that we collapse all the triggers to where that reflects back that old self. I believe anybody can heal anything.
That's amazing. I think the struggle for a lot of women we work with is, they'll say, yeah, that's great for everybody else, but they're like collecting evidence about all the things they've tried. That's what we hear over and over. Like, yeah, I have done all these things, so fabulous that you can do that. And they will believe that it's just not possible for them. So the possibility piece and the belief is the biggest struggle for most of the women we work with.
Well, again, it goes back to the programming in the media, the programming on TV, and the pharmaceutical companies are very well known at neurolinguistic programming. Trust me. And so there's an environment that we are under attack and bombarded by, that we are not healthy, that we are not a superhuman in this physical form, and that we cannot heal our body. And so it's taking it one by one and figuring out the belief system that is holding that person back from actually believing in themselves, and also experiencing other people that have done the same. And like, I would recommend, sharing other stories to those people. I know that they say it can work for me. It won't, or it works for everybody but me. But then where's that pattern showing up? That's probably a pattern that shows up in other areas of life. Like, we hear that a lot in sales training, or, the practitioner is one of the objections. oh, everybody else gets success, but I don't know if I'll be able to get success because I've never had success before. And it's like, when did you decide that you're never successful? And where does that come from? Because that's a belief system that's sabotaging you. And so then letting go of the expectation, the fear of failure, a lot of times it boils down to failure, the fear of failing yet again. And once we can let go of that, then we can actually come in from a place of clarity and knowingness and certainty.
Love that you brought up in the training the idea of limiting decisions, right? We talk a lot about limiting beliefs, and when you said limiting decisions, right, when did you decide that? That's so much more empowering of, oh, I made a decision at some point that this was the reality, not just, oh, it's a belief I have, but I made that decision. That shifted things for me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I love that as well because it gives us power. I mean, when we were indoctrinated into this world, when we're little babies, we didn't have a say of our environment, and so we were unconsciously accepting these things into our life. Though we have the ability to choose now, so we can figure out, we can pinpoint down to the seconds of when these beliefs, these limiting beliefs came in, and we go back to the original decision of accepting that law to be true in your universe, which is complete empowerment. Pretty much all of our beliefs are not ours. In fact, if you have not done belief change work, then your beliefs are someone else's. They're your mother's, they're your father's, they're the religion that you were indoctrinated in, if you had one, if not, school, as well as the programming on TV. And so these belief systems are limiting us, and we can go back to when we decided to accept that into our reality and choose something different from a place of neutrality versus, I'm not going to do anything like that again. No, maybe there's parts of that reality that are good. And let's throw out some of the stuff that isn't working for me moving forward into the life that I want to design and create.
And then hearing other people's stories, I know that it opens up that possibility of, okay, it just worked for somebody else, even though there might be that thought of like, yeah, but it can work for me. I know, just hearing some of the amazing healing stories on Joe Dispenza's work, and I'm like, well, Megan, if that person healed their cancer, right, I think we can work on your menstrual migraine, right? Like, it just kind of
Yeah.
puts things into perspective and starts getting you in a place of believing.
Yeah. And I have a lot of compassion because I used to believe everything worked for everybody else but me, because I was scared and I didn't believe in myself. I made a decision at a young age that I pretty much couldn't. So my modal operator was, I can't. I would say I can't before I would start anything. If you come into a situation and say I can't do it before you try, you're already damning yourself before you even start. So and so pretty much I couldn't do anything because I believed that I couldn't. And so figuring out what is the underlying reason why this person is saying that it won't work for them. And a lot of times it boils down to not believing in themselves, not trusting themselves, maybe feeling unworthy. Maybe they've had failure before, they're fearful. And so getting to the root cause of those and then changing those belief systems, it makes it a lot easier for the health and healing happening, because that will sabotage them at the end of the day.
One of the really cool experiences of someone I worked with who, during timeline therapy, and actually I went back to the womb as well in one of mine, but she was back there and she's like, I'm always playing small, right, in my business, in my life. And I'm always like, even physically, like trying to be small and just small. And that kept coming up. And she ended up back in the womb and was in there, like just realizing that her mom had she was a large baby, and her mom had a condition that where she was basically, it was really painful for her mom, so being in there was hurting her mom all the time, so she's like trying to stay as small as possible. And in the process, she's getting the learnings from this, and she all of a sudden she's like, wait a minute, she's like, I'm a badass baby. Said it like 4 times. I'm a badass baby. And it was just such a cool shift. And she came out and she's like, I get it. I understand where this was all coming from, why I was playing small. And this is like, her business is taking off. It was just such a shift for her in realizing that this decision was made at that point. You're hurting people if you're big.
Yeah, and that's also a construct in in what we're living in. Don't be too much. What would people think? And it's there. People get even limiting beliefs around money in the womb. I mean, they may like somehow link it to prosperity. We've seen strange things where I'm to the place where everything is possible. And you can actually have the power to change it should you choose to, which is, it's fascinating, the stories we hear. And the stuff that we fact checked with the lineage stuff is really, really cool. We've had countless students come through the training and then release major stuff and then change their symptomology, their physiology, and how they show up in this reality. And they go ask their great grandmother, and they find out it's actually a real truth. So it's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that whole time is not linear, so who knows
Mhm.
where we're going and what we're doing. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I actually, my very first introduction into some NLP was, I don't know, maybe almost 15 years ago. And I had a nervous tick where I would click my ears. Like you couldn't see me doing, but it was almost like when you're in an airplane and your ears pop, I would do it. And nobody else knew, but it was so annoying to me because I knew I was like when I was more stressed, it would be clicking and doing this. And I think it was anchoring, honestly, that was used. And I don't really know if that even makes sense now, but I just remember I had an anchor and then I would get in a good state and like it never came back. It was just gone. It's been gone since. So that was where I was like, okay, I'm totally sold on this and how powerful we are to just shift things all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think of NLP, it's kind of like the movie Avatar. We have this like superhuman body that we literally can tap into. It's just we don't know how to drive it. And we haven't been taught. And NLP gives us the keys and the user manual to this physical form to then play in this reality in which we live, because you literally can create and manifest anything you want, including a healthy body, including the love of your life and relationships. And you can create and manifest hundreds of millions of dollars very easily if you choose to. And it's what you focus on and your belief system support it. And so like, I I am so excited to be alive right now in this reality. And with the new technology we have, there's just so much opportunity for us to just show up as superhuman beings. And NLP for me is one of the platforms that I use to get there.
I love it. I know you have a hypnosis training coming up. So I'd love to talk about one when we've used hypnosis in our programs before, just like a daily, self hypnosis. We get a lot. We'll have people have fear around it, right? They'll say, "Well, I don't want to be programmed," or they've been told it's not safe. Or so. Let's talk about hypnosis and how it can be used. And yeah,
Yeah, so it's the same thing that we get as well. Hollywood has not done us a service with what hypnosis is. It's been used to, pretty much display that people can be mind controlled with hypnosis. The truth about hypnosis is somebody will never actualize something that's out of their belief systems and values. It's a following a process. In fact, when people say, I can't be hypnotized, it means that they're not following instructions. You cannot hypnotize somebody if they do not follow instructions, period. There's nothing that somebody could do to you during hypnosis. What hypnosis does is it allows you to have rapport with your unconscious mind. And when you do have rapport with your unconscious mind, you can heal anything. It's very powerful for healing chronic pain. It's great for weight loss. It's great for sleep and optimization. Any type of performance, it's fabulous for. And what it does is puts you into a very hypnotic state, which changes your brain rhythms to where then you're receptible to then the programming that you choose to have. If the hypnosis person is doing their job, they will elicit what's important to you and what you desire. And that's what they're going to use to then program you. So it's your choice of what you're getting programmed with. Also, stage shows is another thing that makes people think, oh, those people on stage are, they're getting in a box and getting their legs chopped off, or they're quacking like a duck and, oh, they don't have control. Well, I know people that have been in stage shows. In fact, we do stage shows in our master practitioner. And first of all those people are remembering what they're doing. They just are really great at trance and they are following instructions. There's a way of self-selecting all the people that are on stage. And we teach this in the hypnosis training to where then you know exactly who you're bringing on stage and you know exactly how deep they're going to go. And they'll be the right person to then play around on stage to do the act. Those people on stage are mostly the extroverts, and most likely the people that, in a fraternity or in college were running around with a lampshade on their head naked. And so they're very happy to display and act and play in the place of trance. So hypnosis is really cool when you use it in therapy and or in coaching and or for self-hypnosis, because it gives you the keys to the unconscious mind, which I said runs 95% of you. And so anything that you want to transform, if you want to increase learning, if you want to turn off your cravings for sugar, you can do that in hypnosis. If you want to have your unconscious mind only desire the types of food that is good for you, you can do that in trance. If you want to have your unconscious mind sleep deeply at night, you can tell your unconscious mind to do that. So it's anything that you want to give clear instructions to yourself to do, your unconscious mind can. You can even lower your metabolism or raise it if you like, depending upon what's healthy for the person. You can turn up your immunity in hypnosis. It's really the keys of the castle. It says that a lot of people aren't taught what it is, and it's no different. Let me say this again. It is no different than meditation. When you're in meditation, you're in trance. Hypnosis is just a structured process of how to put somebody in a deeper level of trance, and then how to program them on what they choose to be programmed with to create success after they leave the session. It's a different type of intention versus meditation is just focusing on one thing and letting your body and mind expand. Hypnosis is more directed of, okay, let's take them somewhere to where then we're going to program a specific outcome. And then when they come out, their life is going to change like magic before their eyes. It's also how we do all our affirmations. I also do goals while I'm in hypnosis. My husband does lots of fun sleep hypnosis tracks where he installs a sexuality and pleasure and all kinds of stuff for my unconscious mind to then desire him in the morning. So there's all different kinds of application for it. Increase sex drive. You can do that.
Love it. Yeah, I was thinking you said you were going to create one for us, Deb. I love the boosting immunity.
Yeah. So, ladies, I have a freebie, and so just go ahead and click the link is it in the bio or, okay, yeah. And I will do one for increasing immunity and or releasing anxiety. So part of it will be helping you calm the mind and stepping into just calmness and peace and self-love, and then also increasing the immunity. So we'll turn it up just like a little knob. Yeah.
Love it. And then Deb, you want to tell them about your training that you have coming up?
Oh, yes. So part of it is that when you log in and go through the freebie and get the hypnosis track, you also get $200 off a coupon towards our next hypnosis training. This hypnosis training, you can do it live or in person. Live meaning that we stream it live. We do everything like that nowadays just because of the COVID situation. We know some people are not able to travel. And this hypnosis training is a 3-day event. It is a full Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you will actually get certified in this training. And you'll get certified in Krasner method, which is a beautiful, beautiful process that you can take a client down. It's used for self-hypnosis, but it's also application with working with others. And you can take somebody down and help them lose weight, reprogram the unconscious mind, increase sleep, increase libido, increase healing. It's actually the track that I'm going to be creating for you. There's one for pain control. And then there's also a way of actually turning it into a business. If you want to actually do, we call it hypno life coaching, to where then you know how to take a client through a structured process of figuring out their desired outcome and what's preventing them, and then how to create hypnosis sessions for them to create success. And the last part of it is getting a hypnosis breakthrough all weekend long. You're going to be in trance. And so you're going to transform in that trance. And then we're also going to teach you how to do self-hypnosis if you want to maintain and utilize it in life. Depending upon what I'm working on, and I know like how many trainings that we're going to be in, because it's a lot of energy. Every lunch, I'll do a hypnosis session, either self-hypnosis or play a recording for myself, which optimizes my health, my mind, my physical body. It gives me extra energy for all the tasks that we're doing. So there's an endless amount of application that you can use for hypnosis. And I am gifting you that because I really, really want to change the way people think about it. And I really believe that, especially with what's going on right now, everybody could use a little session of hypnosis right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you so much, Deb. Anything else you want to share? Well, please share where everybody can find you, and then anything else you'd love to share. This has been fabulous.
Yeah, so I'll put my handle, my Instagram handle, also our Yager training handle on Instagram. And yeah, just check it out. I would love to hear you on the other side of the hypnosis session. And yeah, I'm here for you. If you have any questions, just DM me and I will get back to you as soon as possible.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podcasts helpful, please take a moment to text 5